And we're back here on SportsLine, here on News Channel 5+. Steve Layman with you tonight, talking some football. Just heard from Tennessee State head coach Rod Reed all about the Tigers getting set for the 2017 season. Last week, SEC Media Days down in Hoover. No surprise, Alabama picked again to win the SEC championship under Nick Saban. You have quarterback galore, it seems like. Jalen Hurts, the young freshman that everybody's so high on. Such a good defensive pool of talent as well. Should be a very good team that Nick Saban fields once again. But there's also some off-the-field stuff that he is always seemingly talking about with his players and about the sport of college football. Nick Saban, always an interesting listen at SEC Media Days, and it was no different last week down in Hoover.
Nick, not knowing the intimate details of how a stolen firearm ended up in one of your players' possessions, in your opinion...
I can't really hear what you're saying.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yes, sir. And in your opinion, would stricter gun control laws and measures better prevent a situation in which a stolen firearm would somehow end up in a player's possession?
Look, you know, I don't really think that I should be someone who is determining what gun laws we need to have or don't have. I do think that the thing that we try to teach, you know, our players is that respect for other people, relationships with other people. I think that when people make poor choices and decisions about how they use these things that you're talking about, it's because they're afraid. They don't have a relationship, they don't have an understanding, they don't have a feeling, whether it's a policeman or some young person of whatever, you know, Hispanic, white, black. I mean, so this person doesn't know how that person feels, that person don't have this person, and there's always a little fear. And I think when you have that kind of fear, you have people making poor choices and decisions about how they do these things. In any case, I don't think I'm in a position, but I do think having respect for other people and developing relationships, which is what we try to do on our team. So we don't have those problems internally. I think this is something that if we worked on this on a global, we would end up solving problems rather than creating them.
Left side here against the wall.
Chase Goodred with NFL.com. Coach, at the spring meetings in Destin, you mentioned the possibility of a junior day workout to help underclassmen get a stronger scouting evaluation. How much support do you sense in the coaching community for that idea, and what would some of the challenges be to make it a reality?
Well, I think that people are listening. I think there was a lot of support in our conference with our conference coaches when we discussed it at our spring meetings in Destin. I think that the NFL is very much interested in this. We have a meeting scheduled in the near future to discuss some ways to implement this. And I think, just so everybody understands philosophically why we would do something like this, I think that from an NFL perspective and from a college perspective, when we have a significant number of players make not good decisions about whether they stay in school or go out for the draft, and that would, through the years, you know, we've had a lot of guys that we've encouraged to go out for the draft, that have gone out for the draft, that by getting drafted in the first round, in some cases the second round, created financial security for themselves and their future. But yet there's a cross-section of people you know, out there who maybe aren't giving young people responsible information about making this decision, which is indicative of 107 guys going out for the draft last year. I don't have the statistics in front of me. They're available to you, but probably at least half of those guys probably shouldn't have made that decision relative to whether they didn't get picked or where they got picked. They'd have been better off enhancing their draft status by staying in school and developing as a player. So there's a group of people out there that are not being responsible on how they sort of help these guys and create unrealistic expectations for what their future might be as a football player based on, you know, where they are in their development. But I think that the NFL's issue is they don't have all the information on underclassmen. So we asked them in December to give us a grade on a guy that maybe they didn't even look at through the course of the season. Maybe they didn't even look at when they were coming to watch us practice. They certainly never had the opportunity to interview or to time like they do some of the other players. So it's twofold. They have to use almost all the spots at the combine to bring the juniors in because they don't know anything about them, which pushes some of the seniors out and takes away their opportunity. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, let's be upfront about this. Here's our juniors. Here's the half dozen guys that we have that may be guys that you want to look at next year. It doesn't work. The basketball model doesn't work because we would never be able to manage our numbers because of the signing date, because of the season ending in January, February signing date. That doesn't work, but maybe pre-season, whether it's after spring practice or sometimes, come in, work out the juniors, work out the guys. You look at these guys, you evaluate these guys through the course of the season, and then when we ask you in December if they're interested in going out for the draft, we can get a more specific draft grade. All right, because there's been too many missed calls relative to where guys get picked, and I think this just enhances the irresponsible people to be able to influence guys that, hey, even though you got a go back to school grade, there were 6 guys last year that got this grade that got drafted in the first round. Well, you would eliminate that, and you would have more specific information so people could have a better, make a better choice and decision about their future.
Nick Saban talking about the cases players seem to face every year when you talk about these guys that are highly recruited and considered to be big-time draft prospects, potentially going into the draft or going back to school. And the information in front of them. Also talk some legislative issues as well. More to come here. Coming up in the last break, we'll continue some football conversation, and we'll get to that story we were talking about. A former Navy SEAL helping the Independence High School football team. It's had amazing results, too. Stick around. Much more to come here as we continue along on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.